Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to my channel. Thank you to all my new subscribers. Thank you to those who are visiting, even if you have not subscribed. But however, I am going to invite you to subscribe, right? If you've been coming on here, getting blessed, sharing, and have been getting some encouragement, I encourage you to share. I encourage you to subscribe. And yeah, so I'm going to get right into this, guys. I'm going to read some things to you that the Lord has laid on my spirit, and I'm going to give you the word that He's given to me today to give to you all. All right, so the first thing that we're going to read is 2 Timothy chapter 3, and it says, "But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-pity, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people. They are the kind who worm their way into homes and gain control over gullible women, who are loaded down with sins and are swayed by all kinds of evil desires, always learning but never able to come to a knowledge of the truth." Okay, so I'll continue. Just as Janus and Jambres opposed Moses, so also these teachers oppose the truth. They are men of depraved minds who, as far as the faith is concerned, are rejected. But they will not get very far because, as in the case of those men, their folly will be clear to everyone. And that was 2 Timothy chapter 3, and I went from 1 through 9. Now, guys, I'm going to go to Acts 13. And then, Acts chapter 2, starting at verse 13. Now, in Acts chapter 2, this is when the Holy Spirit came down, and the disciples and the believers that were waiting in the upper room were filled with the Holy Spirit. And as they were speaking in an unknown tongue and in a tongue that was like another nationality and things of that nature, others started to mock them and say that they were drunk, right? So I'm going to start at Acts chapter 2, starting at verse 13. And it says, "But others mocked them and said, 'They are drunk on new wine.' Then Peter stood up with the 11, lifted up his voice, and addressed the crowd. 'Men of Judea and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you and listen carefully to my words. These men are not drunk as you suppose. It is only the third hour of the day. No, this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Even on my men servants and maidservants, I will pour out my spirit in those days, and they will prophesy. I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." And that was Acts chapter 2, and I read from 13 through 21. And I also share with you 2 Timothy chapter 3 from verse 1 through 9. Guys, I read that prophecy last because the word of the Lord today is, you are the prophecy. You are the prophecy. There are many of you who are like myself who have been suddenly, you're getting prophetic words. God is starting to download in you the prophetic words, and you are putting them out there. You're putting them out there. Maybe you, like me, at one point felt like, God, I don't feel comfortable. I don't know about that. And suddenly it's happening. You have been the ones that you were in a period of isolation. Maybe you were in a period that you went through a wilderness, and during that time you were seeking the Lord, you were fasting, you were in His word, you were at His feet, you shed your tears, you let go of all your burdens. And this is the time where God was working in your spirit and you felt like you were being pulled out over the coals, and you felt like, God, why am I always the one that's having to do the right things? And God, I'm being mocked. No one is accepting me. Why is it that I'm being rejected over here? Why did this relationship end when it did? Why am I no longer in this ministry? Why has this happened? Why does it feel like what I do for others, they won't do to me? Why is it that this and that and this and that and this and that? And you chose, in spite of that, to still get before the Lord and get in your prayer closets and fast and get into his word and seek his face. And you made him your food and your drink. And God is saying, now, my children, you are the prophecy. You see, people are going to laugh at you and they're going to scorn you, just like they did when the people of God received the Holy Spirit. And because they didn't understand it and it didn't make any sense, and how could this be, they start to mock him and talk about him. And my brothers and sisters, that's what's happening today. The way that the Lord is moving on his people, guess what? People are going to think you're crazy. People are going to talk about you. It's going to be your family. It could be your loved ones. It could be someone you love, and your friends. They are going to mock and they're going to laugh. And they have to laugh and mock because they don't know it. They don't recognize it. They have nothing. It has not been revealed to them. So it's foolishness. So I want you to be encouraged in whatever you may be going through. I know some of you that may be on this platform, you may get emails, you may get comments, and you may get people that's telling you, oh, it's too much. How come you hear from God that much? You're not supposed to be hearing from God. I'm sorry that you don't hear from God that much, but God is speaking to me. And then this last days, men and women, young and old, God is pouring out his spirit upon us. And that's why we're prophesying. That's why I've seen so much prophecy, so much prophecy, so much prophecy. Because what's happening, God is pouring out his spirit. And so people who are being obedient, they're sending it out. We're seeing it over and over again. It seems repetitious because it's being uploaded. And guess what? When you upload things, you're going to see everything. Now, everybody who's prophesying is not a true prophet of God. But guess what? That's not even for you to be worried about. If you have a relationship with the Lord, and if you are seeking his face, then you're going to easily know what's him and what's not. You understand that? That is going to be manifested to you. But guys, let me tell you something. The word of the Lord today is you are the prophecy. You are the prophecy that Joel spoke about. You are the prophets. You are the prophecy that Isaiah and that Daniel and these great men of God spoke about. You are the prophecy in real time today. So don't be deterred and don't be thrown off and don't be discouraged when people are talking about you. Don't be deterred and don't be discouraged when you find yourself being in a place of what you want to call isolation, what you want to be, listen, you're not in isolation. You're in the womb. You understand? You're not in isolation. You're in preparation. You are getting ready to be birthed out into this time and this day to do the things that God has called you to do. And you're not going to fit in with the norm and with everybody, because everybody is on the broad road. And this includes people who say that they're believers of God. Guys, what is coming today is 2 Timothy chapter 3. What I read to you, that in these last days, people are going to be boastful. They're going to be lovers of themselves. They're going to be holding the truth. They're, doing religious stuff, right? Having a form of godliness, but denying the truth. All these things that I read to you today, 2 Timothy chapter 3 is what we're seeing in the world today. And in light of that, because that's going on, that's why everybody's going in this direction. But because 2 Timothy chapter 3 is happening, God is raising up the Acts 2 children. You understand? Acts 2 coming down at verse 13 and on and going. He's got to raise us up because listen, 2 Timothy folks chapter 3 is going on right now. And if it's not for us, those who he has poured out his spirit on to prophesy in these last days, many will be discouraged, including ourselves. So guess what? God is raising us up to counter the 2 Timothy chapter 3 folks, the ones that's walking in their flesh, that's going after this word, going after the world. The ones that's sneaking into people's bedrooms, simple, gullible people, because you're only going to be simple and gullible when you have not, you don't have the understanding. You don't have the discernment of God to know what's going on, to know what's happening in these last days. So in light of the Second Timothy folks, the ones that's going to fall in love with themselves, the one that's going to be without self-control, the one that's no longer going to love the good, but embrace the bad, the ones that's going to be lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God. He's got to raise us up. He has to raise up the men and women that he's poured his spirit out on, so that we can continue to encourage those, the few that's trying to do the things that he's called them to do, but they're discouraged by the majority. Even you will be this way. Even I have been this way. But God continues to pour out his spirit upon our flesh, so that now that we're prophesying and we're dreaming dreams and we're seeing visions, and people are going to laugh at you and say that you're crazy. But guess what? There's going to come a time, if they don't change, that they're not going to be laughing. They're not going to be laughing at all. So what I'm here to do, guys, is to tell you, you are the prophecy. You are the prophecy. Things that God is showing you, yes, he shows you, but you also need to share this with the world. So don't be discouraged. Don't stop. Don't let go. Keep pushing for the things of God. Keep seeking his face. Get in his presence. Stop trying to figure out how you're going to do it. And I don't know. Listen, you're right. You don't know. But the Holy Spirit knows. He knows what he has planned. He has planned for you. And you can't do anything but by his spirit. So your only job is to show up for class. Your only job is to get into his presence. Pray, seek him out, and listen, by the power of the Holy Spirit, you're going to be catapulted in a direction that you never thought possible. But guys, the word of the Lord today is you are the prophecy. You are the prophecy. You are the prophecy. All right, guys.